United States ended 20 years of war in Afghanistan, the longest war in American history. We completed one of the biggest airlifts in history, with more than 120,000 people evacuated to safety. The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals. And they did it knowing ISIS-K terrorists, sworn enemies of the Taliban, were lurking in the midst of those crowds. And still, the women and men of the United States military, our diplomatic corps, and intelligence professionals did their job and did it well, risking their lives, not for professional gains, but to serve others. Not in a mission of war, but in a mission of mercy. That assumption that the Afghan government would be able to hold on for a period of time beyond military drawdown turned out not to be accurate. But I still instructed our national security team to prepare for every eventuality, even that one. And that's what we did. So we were ready. We got thousands of Afghan translators and interpreters and others who supported the United States out as well. Now we believe that about 100 to 200 Americans remain in Afghanistan. I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any, this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world.
As far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country.
And during last month's debate, he claimed no service members have died during his administration. None.
Rachel, the president, in a tweet just announcing that he is offering his full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party. I want to read this full message from him. He says, "My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination, to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term." He says, "My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made." He says, "Today I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats," he says, "it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this."
I want to go to America now, and the US, like much of the world, is still fascinated by Kamala Harris. She's getting all sorts of praise from the political left for her stage-managed events, but has she done any press conferences yet, or even an interview, or heaven forbid, a debate? I checked in with Kristen Tate.
Nope, this is a woman who stays away from the press, does not want to go off script. She's very carefully packaged by her team, and I can't blame them. I mean, when you let her loose, she goes off on these incoherent tangents. She just spouts out these word salads and does not know when to stop speaking, and she's not very likable. So it's better for them to kind of keep her behind the curtain and build up this persona around her via these media outlets and just let the public see her in very carefully crafted situations like this.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? There are some people who think we should be a country of chaos, of fear, of hate. But us, we choose something different.
You've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that open the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American people about Joe Biden's middle facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
Kamala Harris has been the nominee for 3 weeks. She hasn't sat down for a real interview.
Believe me, we are asking. You're not going to get a disagreement there.
But the point is, Dana, you've got me for 15 minutes or however long you have me. We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about.
While Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have been dodging reporters, J.D. Vance was everywhere on Sunday, taking on the media.
I think that, unfortunately, Kamala Harris has run a campaign where every time she's in front of voters, a teleprompter is in between. She doesn't really talk to the media, like, at all. She hasn't answered, I think, a single tough question from a reporter. So, yeah, one of my jobs is to get out there.
And he did get out there with 3 separate interviews with CNN, NBC News, and CBS News. He faced adversarial questions and interviewers, and Vance came prepared. Here was one moment with CNN's Dana Bash.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use.
Retire.
Because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said.
Very well. And Vance skillfully knocked down ABC's Jonathan Karl on immigration and the border.
Well, John, we have to start with the fact that we have a wide open southern border because our border czar actually set a lot of open border policies. They suspended.
You know, she's not actually, she wasn't the border czar.
Oh, that was what the media called her. She assumed the title. She had control over a lot of our border policy at a time when they were suspending.
After sparring with the media, Vance posted on X, "I enjoyed sitting down with 3 of the major networks today to answer the tough questions that any leader should answer. Kamala Harris has done as many tough interviews as Tim Walz has battlefield deployments." Zing!
Boom.
Kennedy.
Governor Walz, he did not see combat, and he should have been on the Sunday shows clarifying his record for voters. And there may be people who disagree with J.D. Vance. There may be people who've been told not to like him so far, and they're buying into that. But the more they see things like this, at least they will respect him for having answers and being able to fact check and challenge some of these interviewers in real time who are giving him cover for terms like border czar. But the fact that he can challenge them in real time and he's right about that stuff, that will have an effect by November.
And we hope, however, Kaylee, that the effect will be bringing the truth to the American people, because thus far what we've seen already is an incredibly disparate treatment of these candidates by the media. Let's just play a couple examples.
He had sort of a joyful presence, a folksy.
The Harris waltz sounds like a dance to me. It sounds like a happy dance.
Waltz, too. A joyful guy. He's a Midwesterner with big dad energy.
The sun came out. Clear eyes, hearts full, can't lose. Like, I love it.
All-American definition of a man from middle America.
Walz has an ability to be, I know one person said cuddly.
Voters out there who do see this as weird, they see it as odd, they see it as fringe, extreme.
Offensive on so many levels.
It's the tale of 2 tickets. One radiates joy. The other is dour and, frankly, frightening.
Every day, it comes out, Vance has done something more extreme, more weird.
All right, so we have one is a dance, one is frightening, one is folksy, one is taking us back. The list goes on. And what's frightening, however, I argue, is that absolutely disparate treatment.
Yeah, so how do you beat that? That is powerful, what we just watched.
To the sound of DJ Elix. To the